Kevin Feige Star Wars. 4 words that shocked the world of fandom. Let's break down a bit more of what's actually going into this and why so many Star Wars fans are excited about this prospect. We do it for the fans. Today's shout out goes to Zach Goobler. Indeed, Boshek was the character that introduced Obi-Wan to Chewbacca in A New Hope. Make sure you stay at the end of this video where we will ask another nerd card question. What's up, everybody? Happy Star Wars Sunday to you if you're watching this video on Sunday, and if not, no big deal, but you should know we drop sweet Star Wars videos every single Sunday. Now, it should come as no surprise that the Kevin Feige Star Wars story is the biggest deal, the thing that I really wanted to talk about here with you guys on Star Wars Sunday. I'm frankly still reeling from this announcement. It is pretty nuts, but one of the things that's been so encouraging about this announcement has been what I have seen from Star Wars fans all across the internet, including those fans that are usually pretty upset about any piece of news that comes out with regards to Star Wars. It's given me a little bit of hope and actually reminded me of something that I like to talk about a lot, and that is that I like to believe that most of these people actually want what is best for Star Wars, and though many of them have, expressed their opinions in like less than eloquent ways, let's just say it like that. At the end of the day, most people that are upset about what's going on with Disney Star Wars right now actually do want what is best for Star Wars. They want something to cheer about. They want some positive news when it comes to Star Wars. So let's get into this. Let's talk about why people are so excited. And maybe if you're a Star Wars fan out there that doesn't understand why people are so pumped up about this announcement, perhaps this will enlighten you as to why. So let's start with Kevin Feige, the man himself. Now, this dude is legitimately on a track to be considered the greatest producer in the history of Hollywood. That is not hyperbole. That is fact. If he actually comes over to Star Wars and delivers anything near in quality of what we've got in the MCU for the past decade, he's going to legitimately go down as the greatest producer of all time. A lot of different people think that he will likely take a much higher position at Disney whenever he is done doing whatever he is going to go do with Star Wars. I'm actually thinking he'll probably take over for Alan Horn, and I wouldn't be surprised if his track continues even beyond that to something like a Bob Iger eventually. He's legitimately that good at understanding production of movies and working out business deals. Now, a big point I wanted to bring up to everybody, because all we really know about this deal for sure is that he's going to be co-producing this film with Kathleen Kennedy. And we actually have a current and recent example of what happens when Kevin Feige co-produces films with someone else. So actually, you can look at the 2 Sony and Marvel produced Spider-Man films, both Far From Home and Homecoming, because these films were co-produced by Amy Pascal and Kevin Feige. I mean, the proof is legitimately in the pudding here. Look at these Spider-Man films compared to the Spider-Man films that Sony created before, and even though there are some great gems in there, particularly Spider-Man 2, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man is one of the best comic book movies of all time.
Pizza time.
You can't deny that these 2 newer Spider-Man movies are both critically and box office wise just way more successful than anything that's come before at Sony. I mean, for God's sakes, Far From Home is legitimately the biggest box office take for a Sony Pictures movie ever. And so that parallel maybe could get you to understand why people are excited for this. Whatever you think of what Kathy has done, and there have definitely been some great Star Wars films under Kathy Kennedy, it's just not outside of the realm of possibility to imagine that whatever she would do with Feige in co-producing would be at least a little bit better. You'll also find a lot of fans talking about how Feige just gets fandom. Like, he's just one of the fans. He's a big old sweaty nerd, and he has been for a long time. And going back, you can tell all these kind of crazy stories about him on the come up. I particularly just remember hearing stories about, as a production assistant, he had this entire shed on certain lots where he would just have all of his action figures. Like, this dude is just a total hardcore nerd, and I absolutely love it. But it goes beyond just being a nerd and being able to relate to different kinds of fans out there. He actually takes like a lot of attention and a lot of his efforts to bridge the gap between like corporate business world land and the world of fandom. There are a couple of different ways that he accomplished this. Number one, he's incredibly smart about building buzz and hype. Like, he legitimately has come out and said that he schedules the shooting of his films around San Diego Comic-Con so that he can bring things to the San Diego Comic-Con audience, because he understands how useful and important that Hall H presentation is. He also understands how to market films to mass audiences while also using the tentpole excitement of hardcore comic book nerds to really be his guiding North Star. A perfect example of this is the way he will put sweet comic book flavor like the Skrulls and the Kree in a movie like Captain Marvel, so that, you know, maybe fans that weren't crazy about going out to see the first female-led superhero movie will still have something for them to really be pumped about as well. And you can look at the way he's launched different announcements, like the way that Miss Marvel and She-Hulk come announced with a Moon Knight. It's like he's given a little bit of flavor to everybody. You know, some fans that really, really like Miss Marvel that would really be pumped about She-Hulk, and then maybe some fans that wouldn't be as pumped about that stuff, they get a little bit of Moon Knight stuff. It just seems like he's given all the right toys to all of the different people in the room. Basically, it just comes down to the fact that this dude's pretty much hater-proof. Like, all kinds of troubles face fandoms these days, and on the internet, there's just a lot of dogs barking on both sides of almost every single thing that comes up as an issue. And Feige has proven time and time again that he's able to sort of navigate this kind of tumultuous time period with fandoms beautifully. He just gives a bunch of fan service and a bunch of flavor to all of the different groups of people that are represented within fandoms, and it just comes off as like not only just fair, but something that all of these different fans can unite and get excited about together. Another reason that people are super pumped about this is because Feige's first love is Star Wars. So he obviously loves comic books. He's been a huge, huge fan of comic books and comic book films for a long, long time. But in many different interviews, he has let it be known that his thing, the thing that he loves the most as far as fandoms go, is Star Wars. Star Wars has Kevin Feige's heart. That's what it comes down to. And if given the evidence of how much care and just knowledge of fandoms and all of the like juicy, nerdy stuff that he brings to the table as being a comic book fan, imagine the kind of care, energy, and just fire this dude will bring to a Star Wars movie. It's getting me pretty excited even just thinking about it. I mean, I really think it just comes down to this. He gets it. Like, as a fan, he gets it. He gets what fans want from these properties, and he actually has the knowledge and wherewithal as a producer to bridge that gap between what fans want and what shows up on the screen. Like, nobody does that better. He is delivering exactly what everybody wants, and the MCU's $22 going on $23 billion gross, it speaks for itself. Think about this. This guy is literally almost averaging $1 billion per MCU movie. Like, that's legitimately true. It's the 22 MCU movies, and it's grossed like $23 billion. That's crazy. He's legitimately averaging $1 billion and making people just lose their minds. More and more fans are coming with each film. It's astounding stuff. And so those are just a few reasons why Star Wars fans are getting so excited just because of those 4 words: Kevin Feige, Star Wars. So hopefully now you will have some kind of an understanding out there as to why people are so excited about this. And of course, please let us know your thoughts about this in the comment section below. But before I get out of here, I want to address one thing that I've seen people talking about online as a possible negative aspect of Feige doing Star Wars. I've seen people say they don't want it to get too formulaic and become too Marvel-y. Well, I would just argue that I don't think is really a concern, because if you think about it, the way that these comic book movies are over at Marvel are really indicative of that medium. They're just adaptations of comic books, and certain tropes and certain things that work within comic books are brought to the MCU. But Star Wars is kind of like a totally different vibe. So it's not like he's just going to make an Avengers and give them all lightsabers and force powers. That's not what he's going to do. He's going to understand, as a good producer would, what makes Star Wars and adapt the feelings, the mise-en-scène, and sort of the moral encompassing of mythology that we know represents Star Wars in a new kind of fresh, exciting way. So I'm not really concerned about it being very Marvel-y, but it will certainly probably be a little bit tighter and more succinct and feel more like Star Wars than maybe some of the Disney Star Wars films have been for some people. All right, now let's check the nerd card before we get out of here. I want to know, in the Darth Maul video game that was originally going to be created by George Lucas and got canceled, what two characters did George want to be friends in that game, even though it doesn't really make a lot of sense for those two characters to be friends? Answer that question in the comment section below. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.